Right. Hello. So the bit at the beginning that says "Don't forget the survey." That's all about the survey that was on the video that went on today. So basically, just to re-explain that for the people who haven't seen it or basically wanted to know a bit more about it, somebody who's been in contact with me is hoping to import quite a lot of Russian PPE, all under license to the EU nations, to be able to sell them legally. But they need to know, if they're bulk ordering stuff, what sort of stuff people would be most interested in ordering. So that's what that was about, basically. So he actually got around to making a survey for me that I've actually put in the description now. So what you do is you click on that and then click on the things you may or may not. No, you click on the things you are interested in. Not the things you're not interested in. So hello to everybody. And this turned up after getting refunded for it, and then I had to send a message today saying that parcel that was lost in the post that you refunded me for, well, it's turned up. What do we do now? So do people know what this is? Some people might know what this is, but these are I think they're really damn cool. You just don't see enough of them. It's even got a little bipod to deploy it with. Not that you'd really need to do that, but no, it's not a speed gun, but it is a gun of some sort, though it doesn't shoot stuff. It actually receives. It's a gamma gun. So similar to kind of a speedometer gun. It uses a really sort of good calibrated ionization chamber there, and has a digital readout. But yeah, basically the tracking info hadn't updated in 2 months. So last week, because I was running out of time to, get my money back with eBay, I sent eBay a message and said, look, well, the seller a message through eBay said, the tracking's not updated for ages, can you actually do anything about it? And then eBay said, look, we're going to refund it you. And then today it turned up, where it had been stuck in the same warehouse for 2 months. They then got it on a plane and got it to the UK. Yes, but it's different than the Geiger counter. This is why it's important. So let's turn it on and I'll try and get it calibrated on camera. The reason these are really cool is because, and we'll go to the 0 side. So then we have to set it to 0. Although I probably want to actually set it to background radiation. So I'll set it to 0.1 like that. So then I take it off the 0 mode. And then it will configure the dose. And it will take a minute to get to the proper thing. But they did it within like an hour or so, Arnold. So I don't know. So I'm waiting at the moment to see, do I actually have to pay for this? Because I obviously want to keep it. And I waited months for it. But, literally a week after they refund it, it gets unlost from the postal service. So there we go. So basically, if you can see the range on there, and I know I need to get another bulb for that, but there's not one in there yet. It can measure accurately background levels of radiation using an ionization chamber. So micro Rontgens, milli Rontgens, and Rontgens. Ah, Kyle, this is where it's interesting. The reason is because that's background radiation on a Geiger counter calibrated to cesium-137. This is an ionization chamber. So let me show you something. If we got Fiestaware and we put it next to a Geiger counter, it would normally go absolutely crazy. So let's get that there until it gets in focus, and it should pretty much zero out about 0, or it's doing minus ever so slightly at the moment, but there we go. Let's put that there. And it should stop counting in a minute. So what's that, 0.2.2 to 2.5 sort of range? Right, now the reason this is interesting is if I put that on a Geiger counter, it would get a way higher reading. But the reason this is really good is because it actually measures the ionization of the air, not the counts per second or counts per minute, which means if I put radium next to it or I put thorium next to it, it will give you a different reading for each thing based on the actual ionization of the air. So yeah, the reason these are really fascinating is that you get completely different readings that are a lot more accurate based on how much the air is glowing, basically. So that's the Fiesta wear. Let's see what this does. The Autonite. I can put that pretty conveniently across there like that. So Autonite, that's a bit spicier, as you'd expect. So that is about 8.0, so 8 millirontgen. If I put that to the Rontgen one, it will basically be, I think, 0.008 or something. I want to do it that way around, don't I? Yeah, there we go. Same reading. It's just showing it as 0.00 because that's on the one where it goes up to 2 Rontgen or whatever. Yeah, it detects radiation. It doesn't emit radiation. It's not like the gamma gun from Fallout where it shoots gamma rays. Yes, it's better at actually telling you what the radiation really is. As I've said before, this is the issue of Geiger counters. Because if you remember, and I can demonstrate this very easily now, you know the Crookes tube here? Let's turn that round. The Crookes tube, eh? Let's turn on the Crookes tube. So, if I get a Geiger counter turned on, where's my little Geiger counter? There it is. For those of you that didn't see this the other day, make sure you watch it via Opera, not Chrome, because Chrome lags to shit at the moment. Collector's pistol, hard to say because obviously in the UK we can't really get anything that's still live. Okay, so if I have this one on, I'll put the speaker on just so you can hear how crazy it goes. Alright, so this one. Right, according to that, it's basically getting several Rontgen per second, which it's clearly not. Right, okay? But the point is, Geiger counters are very flawed where it comes to overcounting on certain things. So yeah, that's the issue of that. But if I use this on it, the reading I get when it stabilizes, I'll just hold it there for a second, is about 0.2 Rontgen, but lower than that because it shoots up and down depending on electrical activity. And it's probably not very easy to see it from that side, but the point is that you can probably see the number isn't going insane on there because these actually measure the real ionization of the air, not the you know. So I need to do at some point a comparison video where I show these side by side with Geiger counters, so I can show you how the numbers are totally different. Well, I'd love to go to Chernobyl with a load of detecting gear and use that to measure it, but so here's a good example because pretty much all Geiger counters you buy are calibrated on cesium-137 or cobalt-60 or whatever else. So if I get this and I put this, and I'll put on a different display mode so it's let me put on one that says millirontgen. There we go. So if I put that there, that's saying it's 8.7 millirontgen, 9 millirontgen. This will go over 1 millirontgen, right? So there you go. You can see already that says 1.7 microsieverts. Now, if I put this against it, it will come up with a lower true reading of when it stops. I'll have to go onto the smaller scale, won't I? If you want to know why that person's banned, Henry, it's because it's one of those people that comes back with like 50 accounts to give people abuse on here and other people's videos. So there you go. The point is that this gives a lower true reading because it's actually measuring the ionization of the air, not the Yeah, I've not got any radium handy in here to try it with. The only thing in here that's like crazy radioactive is this. Well, this thing is one of those D sort of radium dials. And this one might get an ever so slight reading on it, where Geigers can barely pick this up, because it can still pick up the radium underneath of it. But again, it has pros and cons to a Geiger. It's just something... yes and no, Bolding-Telsky. Okay, so the measurement an ionization chamber uses, and this is a measurement you're probably familiar with if you are used to radiation stuff, is Rontgens. The Rontgen unit was designed around ion chambers, because basically how an ion chamber works is it's like a box, basically. It's a box on the detector, and it measures the cubic, basically, ionization of the air. The sensitivity of it comes down. Yes, it could come down to the size of the box, but it's a lot more about how good the electronics are around it, and also what sort of inert gas they fill it with, or is it an air-filled ion chamber. So in general, most old military ion chambers ran from ranges, you know, like from hundreds of millirontgens all the way up to like hundreds of rontgens. Whereas obviously, with something like this, because it uses all modern digital electronics, well, I say modern, this is probably 1990s, is it? But the point is that yeah, the point was that well, they had this calibrated in 2013 then. Yeah, if you want to see the old label on there, if it focuses. But yeah, the point is that this will give you a totally different reading compared to a Geiger counter. Because it's based on the true ionization of the air. Which, again, it's hard stuff to explain unless you get quite into radiation, but I will do, now I've got one with digital output, you know, because this is like the therapy equivalent of an ion chamber, basically. You know, it does a crazy big range size on a, you know, digital output. That's all right, Robert. I didn't stream yesterday anyway, because I had a lot to do yesterday and I just wasn't in the mood to stream. But yeah, I personally think I prefer ion chambers to Geiger counters, which is kind of like a sacrilegious thing to say to a lot of people. But the pro of the ion chamber is the reading it gives you is far more accurate. Normally the numbers update slower on them, and they're less sensitive. But with modern electronics, you can make very sensitive ion chambers, and they're, you know... Yeah, Bolding-Telsky, but that's also the same with lots of old Geiger counters as well. The Therapy uses the same series Geiger Muller tube as the old Soviet SBM-20s. You know, that are in like the DP5s and all that. So generally, half of the stuff of a Geiger counter is like the calculator computer bit in it, or like, you know, the radiation detector is the calculator computer bit in it. Only a bit of it is a detection module. Because another problem is, are the electronics shielded? Because if the electronics aren't shielded, you know, like I was just demonstrating before, you can get this, think you're like higher than Chernobyl levels of radiation because the Crux tube is bombarding it with low energy X-rays. Yes and no, Adam. The problem is with filters that are only P3 or P100 that don't have like the ABEC bit in, is that any other chemicals mixed with the tear gas will still get through. Yeah, Geigers obviously make the iconic classic noise. Yeah, Robert, well, funnily enough, some meters were color-coded like that. The BEREG doesn't actually give you exact number units on it. The BEREG just says, is it green, yellow, or red? based on the radiation level. So background always reads green, basically. So is it green, yellow, or red? But red isn't all that high on this. It just means that once it's in red, it's in levels you don't want to stick around in. So it's, play it safe. But in normal day-to-day life, I would be very surprised if this ever went out of green, other than, when rain comes down from the zone, or maybe you go somewhere where the British government's been dumping nuclear waste. Yeah, here's the thing, as Nick says, with a Geiger counter, Geiger counters are completely truthful if they're reporting to you in counts per minute or counts per second. The issue is with most Geiger counters is they give you a dose equivalent. And this is where the problem lies, because the dose equivalent is the Geiger counter guesstimating what the radiation level is based on the counts being equal to a certain radionuclide. So, yeah, when I eventually get round to doing the video, I mean, that'd be one I'd really love to do tomorrow if I get time, actually. Obviously, it won't go live tomorrow, but it will be basically getting loads of samples and showing how Geiger counters will give totally different numbers in some cases to ionization chambers. If you mean, why is this ticking? Because I've left it on. That's perfectly normal levels. I'm not even legitimately joking when I say that. Like 0.02 millirontgen is the same as it being, basically 0.2 microsievert. Not normally very common, Nick, but when all those Chernobyl fires happened, we had some. As I said, Doska, that's the problem, because I don't like just doing one form of content, but I know most people like the gas mask videos the most, so it's a balancing act, isn't it? Because I'm not, in all honesty, if I had to just make non-stop gas mask videos, I'd go crazy. But yeah, so as I said again, the survey, I've not put a link in this stream. Yeah, Daniel, the only lighter I bought recently and it ended up being shit, and this isn't Mike's fault because he looked at it and thought it looked cool, and it did indeed look cool, was this one. So I've not even done a video on this yet. I ought to at some point. But this is one where you set it to that mode to be basically... Oh, it's got a bit of spring tension on it. There you go. You set it to that mode, which is fire mode, and then you know. But the problem is with this design is that as soon as it's off that mode, it lets gas out. So as soon as you do that in your pocket, it starts leaking gas. So yeah, I haven't refilled it, but it's not a good design. It looks cool, don't get me wrong, but wow, this is one of those designs where, yeah, it looks good, and it's one of those lighters I wish was good. But yeah, there's a reason I think most lighters have the design of when you strike it, you hold the button down to let out gas. All right, cool, Oscar. Yeah, the thing is, the bloke who's selling them is selling basically licensed PPE stuff. So he said he's basically not really selling military surplus stuff. It's mostly all like Russian industrial stuff, as in brand new Russian industrial filters or brand new, like industrial masks, that sort of thing. So basically what he wants to do is get an idea of what if he, what most people would want to buy. So if he does a bulk order of something and gets all the customs documents done for it, what's most likely to sell? Because obviously there's a lot of costs up front. And so far, apparently, according to all the polls, it seems like most people want GOST filters, modern GOST filters, which probably doesn't surprise me all that much. But, I guess it's because you can stick them on GP5s, old Polish masks and whatever. Yeah, exactly, Richard. Yeah, Daniel. Unfortunately, the one I've got doesn't do that. It's basically, once you open it, it lets out gas. And in theory, if you put the gas to the highest setting, it's a proper torch. In the middle, it's a bit more of a weaker flame. But the issue is that as soon as you knock that wheel ever so slightly, which you can do very easily in your pocket, because the spring tension doesn't return it to zero on its own, lighter goes off. Hello, Ross, you right? That's okay, Snorky. It was just more because, you know, obviously a lot of people watch this channel will watch gas mask stuff or would be interested in buying gas masks. That was the reason I said to him, you know, like, I don't mind helping out if I can do a video that would get you some, you know, feedback. Because I guess if you were trying to sell masks otherwise, how would you really do it, you know, judge interest? I don't know if you can get a Shum 2012 on order, though, because I'm very interested in buying a Shum 2012 if you can get those on order. Yeah, annoyingly, the thing isn't in this room at the moment because I've got it locked in the safe. But I was just thinking what that ion chamber would do if I put it near that old Geiger counter with the radium screen. Cheapest way of buying a bunker in the UK that I know of, and it's what I want to do, is buy an old ROC post and then do it up, you know, when it's been vandalised and it's a bit damaged, so it's not really worth much. You buy it, you do it up, and you've got a bunker. No, I don't have a PMK4, but I don't think, as we were saying, a bloke can sell the PMK4s under his thing because they're like military stuff, not industrial. So the Russian government doesn't really like them being exported unless they're the ones doing the contract. 10 or so, Kyle? Hard to tell. I was 18 when I started this channel, right? And that was in 2012. So if you think for a few years before I started this channel, I was at least collecting gas masks semi-regularly with pocket money and stuff like that before then. A few years before I started this channel. But, you know, this channel has been the first time I've done proper videos, you know, where I actually get a camera and I, you know, go on screen and all that sort of stuff. No, I'm just a collector. I'm not really a prepper at all because I'm, you know, I've got so many underlying health conditions. The thing is, like I've said, if you have some of this and something bad happens, I suppose it could come in handy. But, you know, I'd really hope I would not need all of these Geiger counters and masks, you know, because if you get into that stage, something's gone very, very badly wrong. And at that stage, what you want is the traffic warden hat and the eyepiece, and I don't know where I've put them. But yeah, if people are interested, just so I can show I'll just get this back on and get it to 0. I think it depends which range you've got it on, isn't it? That's what the yeah, so this mode, although it's again a bit slow to update because it's an ion chamber, this mode is the one that works more like a conventional Geiger counter, although it doesn't use a GM tube. It uses proportional counting. Let's get it back to plain 0. For top mode. Also, because it's an ion chamber, you have to hold it completely steady to 0 it, because the movement messes with the gas in the ion window. So, like, tapping it there puts numbers on it. Okay, that's pretty good now. Okay, so what we want to do now is just, yeah, put it back to run. Oh, I had it on the wrong mode then, didn't I? 0. There we go, that's 0. Now, hope I haven't fucked up the reading doing it. Right, go back to 0. So that's that. Back to here. And then I'll just change it to this mode so every one is 1 millirontgen. So let's have a look at a lovely big bit of Torbanite, because Torbanite's pretty fascinating. There we go. So when that stabilizes, I suppose that's probably like 5 millirontgen, is it? Although if I put it to the next up scale, it's the one that's more sensitive in millirontgens, but obviously it jumps around more. I suppose I can... It's quite funny because at the moment I'm not even catching them in the chat. All the mods are just doing them, so they're doing their job well today, because they're basically, you know, nuking them while I'm messing about with a ionization chamber. So let's put that right up there and see if that gives a much stronger reading. Oh yeah, look at that. 7.0 microsieverts, 6.6 microsieverts. So yeah, this is about 6 to 7 microsieverts. Now the reason this is important is because if I get this Geiger counter and put it on top, it'll go absolutely crazy. Let me put this on fast update time. So, you know, you don't have to wait ages for the numbers to update. It means it will jump around a bit more, but fast estimate time down from 60 seconds to 5 seconds. Right. Okay, so if I put this on there now, what I assume you'll see is you'll get a higher millirontgen per hour number. Can you remember what it said on the other one? But I know with some of these, they go completely crazy with bits of, like, natural laws. Because the problem is, when you basically say every count equals, you know... Yeah, there you go. So there's that one. Oh, actually saying that, is that an old radium compass? Nah, this is one of the, I think, post-radium ones. Yeah, the reason why that's interesting for the people who don't kind of understand why that's interesting is it's basically, these are the easiest way of getting a massively different number thing than a Geiger counter gives off. But the issue is, of course, at the moment, I've not got much stuff handy for obvious reasons in here where I can go, look how horrifically radioactive is this. I don't think they are making body armor illegal in the UK as much as I've heard some people say, you know, body armor is going to become illegal. I've seen no evidence that's really going to happen. Because the thing is, people have said it either way, but I've not seen any official, sources saying why they want to ban it or whatever. So yeah, the other mode is proportional counting mode. So how this one works is, I'll read the instruction. Exposure integrate option. Set mode, select switch to exposure integrate and run 0 slide to run. Yes, that's to run. Adjust background controls for minimum UR display drift. So I have to mess about with that at the moment. I've gone too far the other way. Shit. That's the problem with ion chambers, because they update slowly. That's probably going to drift way too low again. Ooh, right, we're almost there now. Come on, stop drifting. I don't know if having the fan on actually might make it worse, because it might be like air blowing against the ion chamber window that, you know. But anyway, this would be a lot more interesting if I didn't demonstrate it on the stream. It's just the reason I'm, you know, messing about with it at the moment is because, you know, it's finally come after months of waiting. But anyway, the point is with this mode, it says, you know, it's basically a digital ion chamber, and that's the reason I like it, because, you know, ion chambers are cool. And now, yeah, let's run it in classic mode. Yeah, there we go. Thank you very much, AK-47. I appreciate it. But yeah, as I said, this is uses a different method of detecting radiation to the Geiger counter. It's a lot more like a CDV 715 or 720. But the thing is, regardless, somebody called white supremacy does not reflect sort of my political ideas, and they can fuck off, you know. But yeah, I'm pretty sure you'll find a lot of the people deep down who end up trolling the shit out of channels, the ones that are probably quite racist, and then they're the ones, you know, now saying, you know, oh, you're racist. I like ion chambers more, but it's really down to personal opinion. It depends what you want them for. For something that's portable and compact and easy to use, a Geiger counter. For something that's more scientifically accurate, an ionization chamber. Let's see how radioactive my head is. I mean, I hope I don't get a reading on here, but you never know. Oh, good. It's normal levels. So yeah, there we go. And of course, this one has like a little underarm leg thing, so you can pointlessly, if you wanted to. Well, I suppose it's not pointless if you had it on a desk, you know, with samples. You can have it basically stabilized on a desk to give more accurate readings, which I'm sure I'll actually do when I come to use it on a video. But yeah, that's enough talking about that ion chamber. It's really cool, and it's an ion chamber. Oh, I like talking about ion chambers. Most animals are probably as radioactive as each other. I know technically, but probably the larger the body mass of the animal, the more radioactive it is, because everything is slightly radioactive. But if you mean in terms of, you know, I don't think there's any real difference between cats and humans. And the thing is, you have to use absolutely microscopic radiation measurements to measure, you know, depends how long it was above normal levels. If it's above normal levels because you had some sort of operation done or whatever, that's probably a good risk. If it was above normal levels because you've been exposed to a horrible amount of gamma rays to the brain, you know, or neutron beams to the brains, that's not good. Yeah, see, this one is basically going to be exactly the same as well. But again, this is a Geiger counter, it's different. But again, what I'll do properly is on a video at some point, and hopefully I'll film it tomorrow, I'll get a load of samples out and I can do side by side, you know, long time estimates of what the Geiger counters say, the digital Geiger counters and digital ion chambers say, because what you'll probably find is, just how much more accurate the readings are on the ion chambers, as much as they're a bit clunkier to use. No, if that's 4chan, Nick, no. I know there's different chans as well, isn't there? But no, I don't really go on 4chan at all anymore. Just because whenever I've been on a lot of them recently, it's just people, I know it's like that for ages, it's just people arguing with each other, about whatever. You think you want to just go and have a discussion about stuff sometimes, not people arguing about sexual orientation or whatever. Do you know what I mean? I know it sounds stupid, but... Right, scintillation counters, Bolding-Telsky, are designed to be very, very sensitive. So a scintillation counter kind of is something you use at a longer distance to discover if something radioactive is around. Like, right, basically, let me try to explain it. In literal old terms, if we talked about, what before you put digital chips and everything and had much better production standards, a Geiger counter was like the medium sensitivity one. An ionization chamber was the least sensitive, and a scintillation counter was the most sensitive. But scintillation counters were really big. Scintillation counters required a specific kind of material for detecting, like gamma rays or whatever else. That was why, obviously, scintillation counters were used to detect radiation from further away. Geiger counters were pretty handy for just, general use of, is this radioactive or not? And then in the old days, ion chambers were used as the doomsday counters, as, as in nukes have gone off, what is an accurate reading of the radiation levels from a nuke? Where Geiger counters would just go and burn out or stop recording. See you, Robert, if you're off. Yeah, you can sometimes just get lucky, Arctic Sniper. There's some masks I like that lots of people don't like, Yeah, that's all right, Boring-Telsky. I said I'll do this properly in a video at some point where I can put the samples out, fast forwards lots of the things, calibrating properly on each sample, and then just get, really accurate results. But what I want to ideally try and show in that video is that Geiger counters will really overestimate how much radiation is coming off of certain things. Because the main problem of how a Geiger counter works is a Geiger-Müller tube counts, and when a Geiger counter counts, it then equates those counts to a dose. So if your Geiger counter is calibrated on cobalt-60, it overestimates everything but cobalt-60. If it was calibrated on, say, uranium-238, it underestimates everything but U-238. So hopefully that makes sense in a simple explanation, but you can get 22 long rifle. Our laws are a bit weird though, Nick, in the sense of different guns sort of fall under different knee-jerk reactions. But, say you wanted, unless they've outlawed them now, like quite heavy anti-material rifles, like 50 BMG and above, you used to be able to legally get those as long as they were bolt action and single shot. The weird thing is, most of the time our law says basically if you're in a firearms certificate, 22 long rifle, you can have basically as a semi-automatic rifle with, removable magazines. And every other caliber basically has to be bolt action or, have some mechanism where you have to manually do something to the action each time. DKP 50? Oh, mine's behind me. So one of these. Right, it's at 0 Rontgen, so that's good. But yeah, I know these never show up very well on camera because there's not enough light, but yeah. What you're thinking of is one of these, is it? Still waiting for Gazov to say if that's what he was on about, a DKP-50. What, you mean the ones recalibrated to 22 long rifle? I don't understand, because if you can get a Ruger 1022, why would you even bother getting a rechambered different gun to be in 22 long rifle? Yeah, these actually use ionization chambers. All of these sort of dosimeter pens always use ionization chambers. They have one like around there in the thing. Then they have some bellows attached to it and a capacitor. And basically, you charge the capacitor up, and when the battery's fully charged, that equals 0 on a radiation dose. Radiation going into the ion chamber drains the battery, therefore, basically, giving you an inverse battery level that shows you, the lower your battery, essentially, the more radiation you've absorbed. Yeah. Ion chambers are good because they don't overestimate radiation. Ion chambers are bad because they're a bit slower to, react to things and whatever else. But again, at some point, I'll get around to doing a video explaining, like the technical differences for anybody that doesn't want to fall asleep during it, the differences. But for most people, if you want to get a radiation detector, you just get a Geiger counter because they're the most commercially available ones. And most people want something that clicks. Yeah, Henry, still waiting for some stuff, but not too much now. A lot of the stuff, like, when this has come now, everything seems to be moving forwards. But of course, as well as the fact I've got this now, and I've said to eBay, do I need to pay you back for it, seeing as I had the refund issued when it got stuck in transit, and then, all of a sudden the tracking info started working again. While that had happened, I bought a replacement one. So I'm now going to have two. So I guess the other one, because it's one that needs to be repaired, means I can have one as a spare, or I can sell it once I've repaired it. But I'm always waiting for parcels. I don't know if I've seen those, Nick. The ones I don't like are the pistols that are really long extensions on, so they're not technically pistols anymore. Really long barrels, really long, almost like foregrips to the pistol. I would personally, Nick, as much as I'm not a prepper, I would say you'd want to buy water, cigarette, ammo and stuff like that. You'd want medicine, you'd want supplies people have a value for in of the item itself. Because as much as gold and silver are good from a trading point of view financially, I don't think they have any real internal value because you can't really eat gold, can you, and stuff like that. Where, I think a starving man would rather pay more for, a can of, baked beans or whatever. Other than oils, but you need to be careful with the oils, Gazov. I'm trying to think. You can get some spray-on sprays. Not that I'm saying like WD-40 in particular, but those sort of things where you can spray them on and they sometimes can get the rust to drip out. Although they're not really a replacement to using oils on things that are rusted. But that's my only thing, is if there's parts you can't really get at, is there kind of one of those sort of solvent sprays you can put in there to at least clean some of the rust off? That isn't a strange question, Gazov. With some strange questions that get asked on this channel, that is not a strange question at all. Yeah, that's the thing, Arctic Sniper, isn't it? Everywhere around the world has different gun laws. It seems completely pointless to go, your laws are worse than my laws. It's just one of those things. I never understand the people who, rather than wanting to improve the laws in their country, would rather laugh at people in other countries for having stricter laws or whatever. But yeah, I actually need to fill in that survey later because I've not done it myself, even though I would be interested in buying some of that stuff. But Not much longer now, 15 minutes or so. It's been nice to be on again this evening, but it's been one of those ones, I think, where I've looked away when anything interesting is going on in the chat for the most part. So when the mass bans are happening, I've not been looking at the chat, which might be a good and bad thing. I don't know, but So I've still got this much beer to finish off, where I've had one of those left tonight, which is really lovely beer, but I never know if you're meant to refrigerate them or not. I don't, because apparently Belgian beer is meant to be room temperature. The problem is room temperature at the moment is like 30 fucking degrees. But, oh yeah. In my country, our way of saying like hello or cheers or anything like that would be cheers, hello, hi, good evening, There's not really an individual word for the person with like, assume what's a Cyrillic name. I don't think we have other than cheers, with a pint. Oh yeah, let me appoint you, Braden. Yeah, Braden, somebody's donated quite a few times before. Andy's donated on Patreon, so yeah, it was just like I said with him, it was a matter of catching him when I was streaming to appoint him as a mod, because I said to him it's a lot of effort to try and appoint mods when you're not doing a video actively. Yeah, and the one in Norway, as the bloke was saying the other day, is Skal or Skol or whatever it is, isn't it? Several countries do that, Gazov, which is quite annoying. But I've not bought any protective equipment from Russia, recently. And none of that was tampered with, the stuff I have bought. But the bloke who's doing it is doing it as a business, so that wouldn't be an issue. I think it's more like if somebody's selling a PMK4, it might get tampered with because they shouldn't be legally selling it. But here, it's more as somebody in customs stolen your item. Oh, do you mean the Finnish M39, Snorky? You could try Etsy as well, but when I got mine, it was when, for whatever reason, on UK eBay, a load just came onto UK eBay for like 30 to 40 quid each, and a few army surplus stores got them at that point. But yeah, it's one of those things for a lot of masks. If there's not currently any for a decent price, I don't really know when you're going to see a load, at a good price again. Because a lot of the times with masks, it always seems to come down to availability of stock, Well, if people, Nick, are really pulling down statues for people who fought to free slaves being pulled down, then it shows that, a lot of people in the protests want to just cause criminal damage, and have no morals about it or no understanding. But the thing is, I said, full stop, I would rather not statues just get pulled down by a mob, essentially. Democratically, if they're elected to be taken down and put in a museum, that's a very different thing. But basically, a group of people vandalizing a statue because they don't agree with somebody historically, and historically, people had very different opinions than our own. I'm sure every generation is seen as being far more racist or whatever than the one, that comes after it, That would be cool. Yeah, if Arctic Sniper, all of Finland's M95s go on the surplus market for reasonable money, that would be good. Because it was only not that long ago, I managed to finally get an M95, but in the style of, is it the M110 it was called? But it's like the version without the drinking tube. Oh, you got into him before me, Henry, but that's a good thing. The site Etsy itself is not a scam. I've bought quite a few things from Etsy and not had any issue. Etsy is just literally an eBay alternative. It's designed really for people to sell like homemade custom things on it. But generally, the reason I've used Etsy is because you sometimes find a few interesting old Soviet bits of military equipment being shifted on Etsy. Well, as cheap as like when all the M61s went into surplus not very long ago. Yeah, that's the thing. Is again, look at how good the seller's feedback is and all that. You know, because you can get scammed on eBay, you know, and all stuff like that. Really, it just comes down to how good the seller is and how good the tools on the site are for refunding you. You know, refunding you if the scammer fucks you. Well, the seller fucks you over. You know. That's why there's so many on here. Yeah, that's the thing. You can find GP5 for silly money, can't you? On no, I'm not married. Whether or not I'd want to be married is another question. And I don't have any children that I know of, which is a diplomatic way of putting that. Yeah, that's the same, Jim. But you probably get sellers that would also do that on eBay. The thing is, like I'm saying, I've not had any bad experiences with Etsy, so you know, I'm not going to say anything bad about them. You know, well, in all honesty, Matt, if somebody got a woman pregnant, you know, knew they had a kid and didn't help raise that kid, I think they're a bit of a scumbag. But you know, there's always times where you could potentially have got somebody pregnant and not known. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying that you know of. And I'm pretty sure I am in the clear with one that was sort of a bit worrying for a while, but we won't talk about that for loads on the stream. I just thought it was one of those quite funny things at the moment, because I don't know if you've seen a load of the trolls recently have been trying to get loads of pictures off of my personal Facebook and things like that. You know, and all stuff like that. And I thought that's funny. Is that what they're going to eventually be getting down to, seeing if they can try and convince people that I owe them child support? Is that what it's going to get down to? Man, I think it's more when you combine this with other things, mistakes can happen. Yeah, that's like I said, Snorky. It's just, I think it's kind of pathetic and bizarre at this point, isn't it? But, you know, like I said, the thing is, if people try and dig into my past, I doubt they are going to find anything that I'm really ashamed of. Like, the worst they'll find is, like, some really cringy videos from before this YouTube channel, you know. And like I've said before, it's like, if you agree with what I say politically or don't, because I try not to bring up politics on here, you'll agree with, you know, what I say or don't, you know. But, you know, that's just, like I say, in the way I feel about it. Because, like I'm saying, I'm sure in the past, if you dug deep enough, you could probably found I've said something online that's a bit offensive. And, you know, I'm sorry if I said anything offensive to somebody, you know, on purpose back then. Off the top of my head, I can't think of anything. But, you know, it's like, if you want to say how woke or how tolerant I am now, I'm definitely a lot more woke or tolerant than I used to be. But that also didn't mean I used to be a Nazi, you know. And, you know, anyway, do you know what my point is? That it's one of those things, it just seems so pathetic if you waste so much of your day trying to find dirt on people just because you don't like their YouTube videos. I don't know if there's any easy advice, Nick, other than just be yourself, but that's not very good advice, is it? Yeah, I have viewers average channel, as much as with a name like that, you might be one of the alts of the other guy, but I'll just go on, you know, because that's a legit question. I have viewers from like India. I get viewers from lots of different Asian countries, you know, not necessarily in big numbers. The most places I get viewers from I wouldn't expect viewers from is like Poland, Lithuania, Estonia, you know, Hungary, you know, Bulgaria. It's mostly all stuff like that, you know, where because I've done videos on surplus certain countries used to use on this channel, you then get people who have like learned English and come on want to talk to you about stuff, and that's really nice. And I think that's one of the things that probably has made me sort of more on the fence as years have gone by, because you realise just how, regular people can either be dicks or nice. They can come on, constantly start spamming you, harass you, try and dox you, call the police on you, all that sort of stuff like that happened to me. Or they can be really nice people that just want to chat about stuff. Oh, and Ukraine, of course. But the thing is, basically every country on the map other than North Korea, as far as I'm where I've had views from. As I was saying, Nick, yes. Because I made the mistake of buying from somebody a bit scummy on eBay once. And then once they had my address, they could use it to try and blackmail me. And sorry, I'm not going to be intimidated, I'm sure if any of you wanted to really go to the effort of looking at my address and details, I'm sure they're published online, but I'll just let you know a lot of them are actually incorrect. So if you did want to send stuff with me, you're better off PMing me and checking that you've got the right details, because a lot of their, online army stuff is pretty poorly done. Yeah, well, that's the thing, isn't it? It's like my dad was saying, because he found that really funny. He's like saying, oh, there's a thing called the electoral register. And he's like, you could look up people on the electoral register. He's like, that's how lots of advertising companies write to your house anyway, or, stuff like that. That it's like, oh, wow, that I live in a place called Kidlington in Oxfordshire. Wow. Oh, I drive a Dacia Sandero. Even though I did a video on the Dacia Sandero when I bought it, because I was like, oh, I bought Britain's cheapest car. Let's see if it's any good. But that's very cool, Mr. Jackpot. But it's kind of that sort of thing, isn't it? It's like, I don't, It'd be nice though if these chats were more about just fun stuff rather than I prefer CSS to CS:GO. No, closest I've got to self-contained breathing apparatus, Joe Mommer, is the stuff like the old rebreather setups, and using those is a bit dodgy. No, Braden, you've not done anything wrong. It's because you handed a ban out to the guy who kept coming back with alternative accounts. So they're saying, well done, you've got your first ban under your belt. Right, Mayor, thank you. It looks a lot better when I end up getting, like the oil and put it in, so it actually stays properly parted, rather than kind of a bit drooping down like that. But I've lost what's going on with the chat at this point. I'll stay on another 5-10 minutes. I must have missed something about a tan helmet. If you were saying about that helmet, that is the British Virtus helmet, whatever it's called. Virtus helmet, the modern British Army helmet. Yes, but I think you'll find that, Vic, that the MF11D is the superior Chinese mask. Yeah, I would, as I've said, Gazov, I want to buy an ROC post just because they're Yeah, it's an ACH clone, but it's slightly different during armor. But the filler, like the armor material, is what the ACH is in terms of protective sort of stuff, but it's a bit different. Yeah, you got a GP5 bundled with an MD3, but that's cool. I like MD3s, as you know. They're iron chambers, not Geiger counters. But yeah, the funny thing, as I've said before, is ROC posts, if you buy a vandalized one and then do it up, end up being way cheaper than buying like a really shitty flat in a crime-ridden area. You know, as I said, that's the main reason I want to just save up for a few more months and buy ROC post, is basically so I can have like a 1-bedroom house to live in. You know, well, like 1 bedroom is the 1 room, but but buying land is often more expensive, Radio Driver. This is the weird thing, and you get all the planning permission issues. If you buy land that has an ROC post in it, you've basically bought a little bit of land that already has a nuclear bunker in it that you can just restore, and you've got a building there. The issue is with buying land is there's lots of things about getting planning permission, and then generally the land is priced around how easy it is to get planning permission to build on it. Yeah, I wouldn't mind a steel Pasket clone. I think that'd be pretty cool. I like the fact China still makes steel helmets. I think is pretty cool. Not as like their mainstream helmet, but it's still cool that they do make steel helmets. Well, guys, there's one way I can think to get rid of it, which leaves an equally horrifying smell. And that would be bombard it with UVC light for a while till the ozone has destroyed everything. No, the only optic like that, Justin, I've got is the some of the Russian night vision, and that has very good, you know, like East German optics or whatever. But right, ancient civilization, right? Preferably one where people didn't do really, really retarded shit, you know, like sacrifice people for random reasons or burn people as witches. I'm trying to think if there's any ancient civilizations that come across, you know, my brain without me thinking too hard, because I said I'm drinking this. Where I actually go, oh yeah, that was one that wasn't really, you know, backwards for the time they existed in. I mean, yeah, ancient Rome did some fucked up shit, but they did have quite good hygiene and other stuff compared to, you know, stuff like that. Same with ancient Greece, you know. The Persian Empire during a certain point was actually very, you know, good compared to a lot of the countries around it. Aztecs, as we said, sacrificing people. But yeah, Persian Empire, in the right sort of time period, was pretty damn civilized for when, you know. But yeah, the thing is, as much as I like medieval weapons and equipment, the idea of living in a period where people just threw shit out of their houses, you had a life expectancy of like 30, there was all sorts of horrible diseases, you know, doesn't, well, Saladin was Saladin Iranian or an Arab? But I'm thinking before Saladin, because obviously that's during the sort of Crusades, isn't it, Saladin? I'm thinking of like the ancient, you know, Persian empires. Oh, but if you mean Arab Age of Enlightenment, yeah, I think that'd be a bit better than medieval Europe. Yeah, I know Iran is Persia, but the point I'm making is the Persian Empire and like modern day Iran, in sort of Iran through different bits of history and different things. All right, yeah, Persia. I get what you're getting at, but the point I was trying to say, if that makes sense, is that when people talk about the ancient Persian Empire, they often, you know, mix them up with other things to do with the Arab world, even though, you know, it's not really the same thing. But I don't really want to get into a semantics argument when I was just answering a question. That's pretty cool, Braden. I mean, the British Empire was good unless you're a poor person that was either military cannon fodder or industrial cannon fodder for the machinery. The British Empire wasn't very good if you were some poor bastard in a country that got fucked over when our cannon fodder was sent against your cannon fodder. Does that make sense? Because the thing is, like I said, with the British Empire, we did both good and bad things. You know, you can't take one without the other. Yeah, into the machinery. You know, chimney sweeps. Oh yeah, I mean, that doesn't sound too bad, Joe Monmouth. I mean, what empires are we going to compare it to then? Britain, then the Opium War, forcing the Chinese to get high or we'd kill them. And that was pretty fucked up. You've got, obviously, Leopold in the Congo chopping the hands off every, like, black person in sight because they're not bringing me enough rubber. You know, I think Leopold is an example of, you know, really bad stuff white people did do in these countries, you know, because when some of the things get brought up, you think it goes either way, really, because, you know, we did bad things, but also we built institutions for them and everything else. But fucking the Congo under Leopold was literally, you know, like Nazi tier of its day, wasn't it? Yeah, well, that's what I was saying, Radio Driver. You can't pretend one bit of the history exists without the other bit, you know, and I think people on both sides need to learn that in some extent, because people either like to talk about non-stop how good their country's empire was or how evil, you know, certain country is. Oh, that's good, Braden. I hope you didn't throw it away. I've almost done that before, where somebody's put a gift in a parcel and it's nearly gone in the bin because I've got the main bit of the parcel out and then chucked a load of the packaging away. Anyway, yeah, I'll be off in a minute. It's been an interesting conversation, even if the end of it did end up being a weird politics type one. Yeah, now Britain had like a third of the earth, didn't it, or something? It even was bigger on landmass owned than the Mongol Empire, which is pretty damn impressive when you think how much Genghis Khan, you know, took over back when he did it. And I think that's why it's more impressive when he did it in a way. At the moment, what am I drinking? The Left Brun or whatever it's called. You know, it's like Belgian brown beer. So it's just strong brown beer, basically. And it comes in a big bottle, not a small can. So it fills up, you know, like one of these to about there when you have it, rather than... Anyway, yeah, I'll see you all. Otherwise, I'll keep rambling on about beer or whatever. Hopefully I'll stream tomorrow, but at the moment, with a lot of stuff going on, you know, I might be busy. Some days I might not be, but... Yeah, it's good beer, isn't it, Chris? It's a shame that you can't get more Belgian beers for reasonable prices in a lot of shops over here, but at least Left turns up. Right, anyway, yeah, see you all. Have a good one. Good evening. Auf Wiedersehen. Goodbye.